This video is brought to you by Midway USA. Support the channel by choosing Midway for your shooting and outdoor supplies.
So, magnifiers has been a crucial development in the last 10 years and something that we've constantly been improving upon. And it gives more capability to any type of red dot that you're using. This is a holographic DI optical sight that Blackwater brings in from Korea. And of course, paired with the Korean magnifier, it helps me stretch the range. I just made a offhand 200-meter shot on a target that I identified. Years before, when we were only stuck with the red dot, people had to improvise quite a bit more. And so today I wanted to talk to you guys about the prospect of putting a prism optic, not a magnifier, a prism optic behind a red dot. Because if you check out some images from years ago, you'll see that from the early mid-2000s, guys have been taking ACOGs and putting them behind EOTechs and Aimpoints. But nowadays, ACSS or primary arms had started developing these small 5x optics with a really good BDC reticle. Now what I've been trying to experiment with is taking a Comp M4 or a Comp Pro, dropping these things on with, let's say like this is an American Defense QD mount. And right here, I have essentially what you would see as a magnified, 5x magnified red dot optic. All I have to do is zero the prism reticle to it, and I can push it out way past even the 300-400 meter zone, because the reticle on the prism optic is compensated for well beyond that. Now, this also works if you, let's say, take a rifle that isn't zeroed for that particular optic. You could dismount this particular optic, QD it onto something else. All you have to do then is, once again, zero the red dot to correlate to that 300 meter zero that I have on this rifle. And I'm able to use the grid inside to correlate and give myself a little bit more usefulness out of a red dot only optic. Now, obviously you can use all sorts of prism optics to do this, but I found that these 5x really small, these micro prisms that Primary Arms has been using really fits the size behind the optic, the red dots, in order to give it that edge that pushes you a little bit farther. Now, optical clarity, how does it compare to an LPVO? It's not an LPVO. LPVOs are going to be better on the optical clarity because inevitable, if you're running aim points, you're going to get that slight blue, very slight blue hue to it. If you're running EOTechs, maybe a little bit better, but you're still putting a prism optic behind another optic. Still though, I'll show you right now the effectiveness of something like this. So right here, we're looking at the K2 with the DI Optical RP1. And the RP1 is a similar optic, a similar reticle to an EOTech. It's a dot and donut with a holographic output. So let's see how it does. So today, all demonstrations shot, we're using PMC bronze 55 grain 223. All right, so nothing special to that. but I know as I push farther, I'm going to have to give it a little bit of elevation. So let's look at the 400-meter target real quick. Obviously, with a magnifier, unlike using a red dot, I'm actually able to identify the targets down there. Like I just talked to Steve that I'm going for the target with the black heads. Oh, the last one I sailed it. I'm aiming now. My dot is right above the little black heads on the target, and that's how I'm getting a shot. So it requires a little bit more training. Now take note, these are C-zone reduced targets. So they're about like a sappy plate size target. So along your center chest, vital zone targets. As we push the simple dot and magnifier out, typically I'd say 400 yards, 400 meters is my comfort zone using a dot and magnifier. Pushing past that, you may have some difficulty. As we look at the SIG, using the 5x magnifier with a ballistic grid in the back, pay closer attention to the elevation judgment that I'm able to hold. And yeah, we'll get to some of the pitfalls, the potential downfalls if you're not able to use this system correctly down the road. But look at the elevation and how precise it's able to get the elevation. Now, let's check out what I do with a SIG 556 using a single Aimpoint. It's actually quite difficult because it's in shade. Ready? Okay, so I'm having trouble identifying the target already, so I'm going to drop my magnifier on. Let's see how we do. So that's a lot easier, but what I'm seeing right now though, the magnifier is actually, it's not necessarily zeroed. I'm still using the red dot as my reference point to that. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take a coin and I'm going to put the magnifier, the reticle of the magnifier, put the dot at the 200 meter position, which is right underneath the little chevron. So you ready to go out to 400? That was an impact, right? What?
That was an impact.
Okay.
Impact.
All right, so basically what I'm doing, I'm correlating the grid to the dot to get it on really, really quickly. Now, since that's an impact, using 556, and it's correlating to the 400 meter, let's see if we can hit the 600 meter target, or 600 yard target.
So it's a big metal target with an orange spray paint. It's got to be hitting it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm hearing those are hits.
I hear impacts. Yeah.
So yes, this is a massive target. This is a larger than man-sized target. And I did this because I wanted to make sure that I wanted to see if the elevation was actually correlating to the projectiles. And it was. And so on the next set of targets, I'm going to push towards a point target rather than an elevation target. I'm hearing those are hits.
I hear impacts. Yeah.
Okay, so the idea here isn't that this is providing a highly precise firing solution out there, but rather in a field setting, I'm able to use a red dot equipped rifle by dropping a tiny prismatic optic behind the red dot or EOTech. I'm able to stretch the distance a lot farther. Now, once I stripped it, it's once again a very lightweight red dot equipped rifle. But what if I switch this to a different rifle? Now, this is, once again, we're using a red dot equipped rifle. Steve, would you mind zooming on, putting the target cam on 200?
Impact. Impact. Impact.
Okay, so my red dot is zeroed at 200. Let's put the Prism Optic on. Now pay close attention here. As I shot, you can see that the grouping, very tight, but was on the right, on the shoulder, top right shoulder. That's going to come back and bite me. Because my rifle wasn't perfectly zeroed, and I zeroed the prism magnifier, or the prism optic, to the red dot. Essentially, I used the penny and I zipped it until the red dot moved to the center of the chevron. Because of that, it turns out that bad red dot zero affected the rest of my shooting. So when you drop the prism to different rifles and you quick detach it and you attach it to a different rifle, obviously the zero is going to be different. Once you get the prism situated, the first thing you would want to do is to sort of zero it. And by zeroing it with these microprisms, you're able to use a penny or a screwdriver to put the red dot in the middle of the chevron. And that would be key because that is the 200 meter zero position for the ACSS optic, which would then give me the full range and the use of the ballistic grid. Okay, I think it's zeroed. You ready to go to 400 to see how we do?
All right, we're going ready.
Left or right?
Right. Impact. Just off.
To the right?
Just off to the right, yes. Impact.
I thought that it was a little off on windage, so my first shot, I actually compensated pushing the chevron to the left to begin with, and it hit square on. And then I was wondering, how exactly far is it? So I put it back onto the center, and it hit to the right. Hit to the right again. And then I pushed it back to the left, and I knew that it was hitting on target.
Impact.
Okay, so why don't we now see, because it's a 12.5-inch barrel, we'll see if this pushes out to the longer distance. Okay, I'm going to use a 600-yard hash. Ready?
It looked like a hit.
Are those hits?
Sounds like it.
Sounds like it. The camera's shaking, so I can't really tell too well.
Yeah, that was a hit.
And now, unlike the previous SIG, I wanted to see if I could shoot even more precise than just an area target. So that's why I used the SG-551 and I shot the torso itself. And so the first target, I was using the 650 hold, just bumping it to the left a little bit. Again, compensating for what in my mind I felt that it had a windage error that I needed to compensate. Hit, and then afterwards I wanted to double check to see if there was a windage issue. So I centered it and it hit to the right both shots. And then I put it back to the left and it hit back on target. And that just confirmed to me that I had a windage issue in the field. And so this is actually a potential for error if your red dot isn't precisely zeroed at the 1-200 meter ranges. And so if you use this technique, I would recommend making sure that your red dot is precisely zeroed for windage. Now, again, this is the first time we're shooting this. I wanted to see if this was going to bring the merits for me to take the SG-551 back to the practical accuracy course. Of course, this time kitted out as the GIGN rifle. And yes, I think we've got some good results.
It looked like a hit.
Are those hits?
Sounds like it.
Sounds like it. The camera's shaky, so I can't really tell too well.
Yeah, that was a hit.
Okay, so 12.5-inch barrel. I mean, dropping targets out there really with the assistance of a prism, because although I'm not using the exact BDC that it is cammed for, because this is cammed for a 14.5 and a 16-inch barrel, and I'm running a shorter barrel. So I'm using a 650 yard elevation to drop it at that distance and giving it a little bit of a bump on the windage in order to get those hits. And so that is how you use a micro prism optic behind a red dot and achieving some otherwise very difficult to achieve goals with just an Aimpoint optic. Well, I hope you learned something. I certainly did. I had a great time shooting tiny rifles at long distances. And if you have any comments, any thoughts, leave them down below, and we'll catch you guys on the range. Well, hello there. You must have caught us at the battalion field headquarters as we were about to break for lunch. Now, we're trying to not have the MREs. I hear the boys in the field are quite fond of them. I hope you're enjoying the show thus far. Shows like this, they're brought to you by Slate Black Industries. And more importantly, we have the support from the patrons of Patreon and Utreon. Now, that's true. This group of men and women, they support us intellectually, financially, but most importantly, emotionally. So today, I'd like to invite you, come, join us, become one of us. Together, we could plan to conquer the world of firearms technology. But if you cannot, that's all right. We completely understand. We'd be just as happy to hear from you in the comments section below. Well, without further ado, we'll leave you back to it.
This is Steel 96, 4 Vic, 8 packs, REDCON 1, green to green. How copy, over?
Steel 96, this is Pepper 16, roger, over. 1-6, Steel 91, 1 pack, green, over. This is Pepper 16, roger, over.
1-6, Steel 92, 1 Victor, 2 packs, REDCON 1, over.